things continue to slow down in the crypto market as, of course, we are seeing a little bit of red across most of your top 10 altcoins and Bitcoin itself. And of course, many people are now questioning, what does the future look like and what can we do about it? And so in today's video, I'm going to be going over Solana and XRP and talking about exactly what their prices are doing and what we can expect from here. And so with that said, we're not going to waste any more time at all, and let's get straight into today's video. So we're going to be starting off here on the Solana weekly charts. Of course, we are zooming out right now because in order for you to really understand what I am expecting next, I need you to see the zoomed out picture so you can understand the significance of the move that Solana's made over the last few weeks. Now, of course, in the video that I made about 2 to 3 days ago now, it was basically talking about how significant this pump has been, but we talked about it from a daily perspective. Let me put it in the weekly perspective so you can truly see it, okay? So over the last 2 weeks, we have gotten a move above the two biggest, strongest bearish levels of liquidity, or quite simply just downward trend lines that Solana has ever had. As you can see here, we had, of course, the macro trend line, the bear market trend line itself, which was created off of the all-time high. And then we also had this more mid to macro trend line in which we had 1, 2, 3, 4 establishments of resistance to create this trend line, both of which we did break out of again 2 weeks ago. Now, interestingly enough, we did get the breakout the moment that these two trend lines did intersect, and this is something interesting to kind of consider, and maybe we need to look into more in the future. But this intersection point must have served as a point of, kind of reference for this breakout. It was very interesting to see that it happened at that exact moment when it could have really happened at any other moment throughout this move. But all that aside, what I have noticed is that, again, Solana has made a very, very significant move by getting above these two trend lines. Now, generally speaking, when a crypto is capable of breaking its macro trend lines, the bear market trend line and the mid to macro trend line, what will usually happen is that is an indicator that we're entering into the next step of the cycle. You guys know that I typically say that these cycles work in 3 phases. You have step 1, which is when the price is going down. You have step 2, which is when the price is going sideways. And then you have step 3, which was when the price starts working its way upwards. If you look at something like Bitcoin, that is generally what it follows, right? As you can see here, we have the downtrend, which is step 1, the sideways trend, which is step 2, the uptrend, which is step 3, okay? Now, the indicator that the next step is starting from 1 to 2 is, again, generally when we get the breakout of the macro trend line, okay? So with that in mind, in the long term, I'm now under the belief that we are going to start to see Solana slowly but surely working its way up to the upside. Now, obviously, the only way to truly invalidate that is if the price just absolutely dumps off to a new lower low, then that does mean that, of course, we are still in this major downtrend, but I just simply don't see this thing falling down to $5, okay, or $4. I just don't see it happening. It could happen. I just don't see it happening. But what I do believe is that in the short term, we are set to see some type of pullback towards the downside. Let me explain why. What you must understand is that these things don't usually just go downtrend, uptrend. They don't usually do that, okay? What they'll usually do is see a downtrend, sideways movement, uptrend, right? And the reason being is because in order to get this breakout, in order for Solana to be up from, this low that we put in back in December of 2022 to where we are now, a climb of 217%, it took some bullish momentum. This was not an easy move. And typically speaking, after a move of this nature, things need to cool down. The bulls need to gather up their cash, and the people that, support the project need to kind of just relax a little bit. And that's the reason why you'll see something like Bitcoin, to use it as an example again, we'll have a moment like this, right, where we're not really seeing that much. Yeah, of course we're seeing an uptrend, but then we come back, we pull back, and then we go sideways a little bit. This sideways movement is very, very common within the world of crypto. And so in order for us to see sideways movement, it is very likely for the price to see a little bit of a pullback, start looking to maybe even backtest some of these trend lines here, but create that sideways movement and create that range that it will typically follow before it then breaks out of that. And so from a structural perspective, it does seem to me as if we're in position to get some type of pullback relatively soon to start creating that sideways movement. Now, sure, there is a possibility that we do see a little bit of further uptrend before then. Maybe Solana's price does bounce, roll up to $38, and then start to look to go sideways. Who knows? But at the end of the day, it's typical to see something of that nature. Another thing that I want you to pay attention to is that if we do zoom all the way back down into the daily charts, we are getting, again, as I mentioned yesterday, major implication that some type of pullback is on the way. Overbought readings flash crashing on two separate occasions. We have sideways movement on our daily chart prime oscillator ribbon. We have bearish divergence, red reversal triangles, blue peak finders, red bearish momentum dots. All of these things say that we're in a position for a pullback, and so I wouldn't be betting against these. I would assume that they are very likely correct. Okay, and so with that in mind, at this given point, the only other thing that we can truly look at to get an idea of where this might go, in my opinion, is your weekly Bollinger Bands. What you can see is that oftentimes the price of Solana will resort back to that 20-week moving average that runs in between your two Bollinger Bands. So here's your Bollinger Band 1, Bollinger Band 2. This orange line is your 20 SMA. And what you can see is that really no matter what the price does, it will almost always go back to it at some point, right? From here to here, from here to up here, and right here. It's just kind of the commonality. And so considering the fact that Solana's price has now extended outside its Bollinger Bands, it's pretty likely, in my opinion at least, that we will come back towards this 20 SMA, which is currently sitting around, let's call it $21 to $20.50. That is my rough expectation of where the price could get a pull back to. Of course, it could go lower to touch the trend line, but I am expecting some type of move back towards this 20 SMA over the next few weeks, so do stay tuned for that. Now, XRP is in a very similar position, at least in my opinion, of what Solana is doing right now, so of course, let me explain. So, looking at XRP from a weekly perspective, you can see that it's a little bit ahead, right? It seems as if XRP has somewhat started its phase 2 a little bit early, as of course the downtrend really stopped back here as it failed to put in the lower low, and it started to go into its sideways movement. Now, one may say that XRP could be beginning the third phase of its cycle, right? The downtrend, the sideways movement, and the third phase of the cycle. But one way or another, what you can see is even if we are set to start making some moves to the upside, it is starting to run out of bullish momentum, even though the news has been great, which very likely could cause it to see some type of pullback very soon here. What we can see is from a structural perspective, XRP just got a massive, and I mean massive, breakout of a beautiful structure. Many people are going to call this a double bottom, a W bottom, or some people will even call it a cup and handle pattern. All of that sounds great. I don't care what you call it, but what you need to understand is that this was a point that was a major support level that then flipped into a major resistance level, which we then broke above. And in these situations and in these circumstances in which there is a level of liquidity that is this strong, you will almost always backtest it, okay? Now, am I saying that XRP is going to come all the way back down to 56 cents? No, I'm not saying it's definitely going to do that, but it does seem as if there is a strong possibility of that 25% correction back to that trend could very well happen. Now, what you must understand is that this is a little bit different because, of course, it is operating based off of external factors, such as its SEC lawsuit and exchange listings and things of that nature. And so realistically, it could get another piece of huge news that absolutely sends it up, and it never comes back down to these levels. But it does seem as if at this given point with where we are right now, that there is a strong possibility that we do get some type of pullback back in the direction of this trend, maybe in between about 62 cents to 56 cents to retest that liquidity, build up some support, and then continue to the upside. The reason why I truly believe this is the case is if you look at your weekly chart prime oscillator, we are getting that initial early reading that says, listen, we're getting extended. That overbought box is printing as we are seeing XRP's, the ribbon, start to work its way back up towards this overbought territory. Generally speaking, of course, when we get readings of this nature, these little pullbacks and retests, as you can see, do tend to follow soon thereafter. And so some type of pullback of this nature definitely wouldn't shock me. Now, we're also seeing a very similar result, as you can see here on the weekly Bollinger Bands. We did get extended well outside of that Bollinger Band, and typically speaking, when this happens, we will come back down towards this 20 simple moving average, as you can see from all of these different examples here. And currently our 20 simple moving average is right around 50 cents. By the time we would intersect it, it would be somewhere, I would assume, around this 56-cent level. And so that gives me another reason to believe that some type of pullback could very well be on the way. Now, again, do understand this for XRP and this for Solana are not guaranteed. They could continue a little bit further before that pullback does happen, but I'm extremely confident based off of our indicators, based off of the overextensions, and based off of general crypto sentiment right now, that some type of more macro pullback is on the way for them, and that would be a fantastic buying opportunity, as I do believe we are now in the acquisition phase of the cycle. And so with that said, of course, I will continue to update you as their charts do play out. And if you do want to see the purchases that I personally am making, check out the Patreon link down below. You can see whenever I'm buying $1,000 of Bitcoin or $350 of BNB, or doing a huge multi-$1,000 dollar cost averaging, which I'm buying Bitcoin, Ethereum, ADA, Solana, XRP, and many more. So check that out if you'd be interested. Of course, we just revamped it last week, so it is up and running and new, and so of course I do think you'd enjoy it. But with that said, I will be posting another video very soon updating you on as this does play out, so do stay tuned for that. Make sure you subscribe, and I will see you all next time. Peace out, everybody.